Welcome to Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine. I'm your host, Jill Jardine, Master's in Counseling Psychology, professional astrologer, psychic healer, and yogi. In this episode, I'm going to outline the key astrological events from September through November 2022, how they will affect us and the cryptocurrency trajectories. And what the heck is SHMITA? Stay tuned. Welcome to the episode on the cosmic waves and cryptocurrency currents during September through November 2022. And what the heck is SHMITA? This episode will summarize the important astrological events during the autumn months here in the Northern Hemisphere. I will also be launching the astro updates and sun sign forecast for each month, as well as the special eclipse update podcast for the Taurus Scorpio eclipses in October and November 2022. But this episode is to give my listeners a heads up for the coming season. September slinks in with 5 major planets retrograding, including Uranus retrograde in Taurus, joining jolly Jupiter jolting backwards in Aries, Saturn slowly seeping retrograde in Aquarius, Pluto pushing back in Capricorn, and Neptune pulsing Piscean retrograde. On September 9th through October 2nd, Mercury joins planetary pals in retrograde reprieve, first in the sign Libra and then going back into Virgo. So with 6 planets retrograde, September starts slowly, allowing integration of the previous months. Mars moves through Gemini, going direct until October 30th. Gemini is an air sign. And Saturn is retrograde in Aquarius, another air sign. While Mercury moves back through Libra, all 3 air signs are acting ideas and reassessment, realignment, and realizations. Pay attention to the thoughts popping into your head and notice if your left brain is starting to align with your right brain, increasing your intuition. With Mercury retrograde in Libra beginning on September 9th, Libra is the sign of relationships, so many will reevaluate relationships. Mercury is retrograde for the 3rd time in 2022 from September 9th through October 2nd. Mercury will be retrograde in Libra from September 9th through September 23rd, then retrogrades back into Virgo from September 23rd through October 2nd. Libras will be affected, as will Gemini, and especially Virgo, the signs that Mercury rules, Gemini and Virgo. Virgos will get a double whammy because Mercury is not only their ruling planet, but also going retrograde in their sign. As the planet of communication, Mercury retrograde tends to breed a certain level of confusion. Mercury has rulership over all communications, such as speaking, buying and selling, negotiating, signing contracts or formal documents, travel, the mail, shipping, and so forth. So don't be surprised if any of these get delayed or that you decide to delay signing formal contracts and documents, or even traveling during this Mercury retrograde. Decision-making is always challenged during Mercury retrograde, especially with it being in Libra, the sign of the scales going up and down and back and forth, pros and cons, pros and cons. It's not advised to sign contracts, engage in important decision-making, or launch a new business with Mercury retrograde. Delays and challenges are more probable. It's also time, weirdly enough, when people can be careless with money or their personal information and not do the necessary paperwork that they need to do, or the paperwork can be very arduous at this time. So if you have to file paperwork of any kind, you might want to wait until Mercury goes direct after October 2nd. But as we've said in previous podcasts, there is a positive side to Mercury retrograde. This period is best used for reorganizing, reflecting, realigning, and doing any of the RE words. With Mercury retrograde in Libra, it implies that there's going to be some communication issues in partnerships. It is also likely that people will be indecisive or on the fence with the Libra scales going up and down. We might look at past decisions and ideas from a new, possibly enlightened perspective. But with Mercury going retrograde in Virgo from the 23rd of September through October 2nd, we have to be careful not to be overly critical or analytical. The day after Mercury goes retrograde, on September 10th, there is a full moon in Pisces with the sun in Virgo. Health will be on everyone's mind as the new variants of COVID and the new fearmonger monkeypox are trotted out by mainstream media just as schools reconvene. Get your health regimes in order. Virgo asks for just the facts, and Pisces pleases when we tune into our spiritual self. This full moon on September 10th is the harvest moon. So see what you have harvested in your life from the previous 9 months of 2022. The moon is full in Pisces, a water sign, so this can be more emotional. It's also a time of romance, relationships, fertilization. Even though we have Mercury retrograde in Libra, it is a time to perhaps fondly remember relationships from the past and not so fondly remember relationships from the past and be so happy that we're free of them. This full moon occurs along the Virgo-Pisces polarity, which is the service axis in astrology. I also call it the axis of healing, the traditional healing of Virgo and the spiritual healing of Pisces. So there is a lot of healing energy available during this full moon. The Virgo-Pisces axis deals with the balance between the day-to-day functions, routines, our physical health, and the need for order, which is Virgo, and the spiritual self, non-structure, the nebulous, and potential enlightenment, which is Pisces domain. Virgo rules the practical, how we deal with day-to-day life, while Pisces rules our spiritual life. The key to balance lies in identifying and expressing our spiritual needs while maintaining order in our everyday lives. That balance of practical self and higher self. See how that aligns for you during this full moon cycle. With planets traveling retrograde and the full moon on September 10th, I predict the cryptocurrency will have a bounce back in September and begin to rise again fast. This will be a short heyday, but the retrograde planets in September will certainly help crypto regain lost ground. A very prolific cycle for crypto will be between the September full moon of September 10th until right before the new moon in Libra on September 25th. Get ready for that Libra new moon. The new moon of September 25th ushers in Rosh Hashanah in the Hebrew calendar, signifying the end of a SHMITA year, which has been happening since September 6, 2021, the Virgo new moon in 2021, and the start of the SHMITA year 5782, SHMITA year in the Hebrew calendar. At the end of a SHMITA year, there is always a release of SHMITA, which generally brings a challenging event. SHMITA years in the Hebrew calendar indicate difficult years and historically have proven to be tough times for the stock markets and economies. SHMITA years occur every 7 years in the Hebrew calendar. In astrology, a 7-year cycle is a Saturnian cycle when the planet Saturn either squares itself from 7 or 21 years earlier, or opposes itself from 14 years earlier, or conjuncts itself from 28 to 29 years earlier. So we have a Saturn situation in a chart every 7 years, which will be a test or challenge we must go through collectively or personally if it's happening in our own chart. The Hebrew calendar reflects this Saturn cycle, with challenging years every 7 years known as SHMITA years. I'll go back through previous SHMITA years that have yielded financial crisis and crashes and other difficult situations going back the past 50 years. Try to remember what may have happened in your life personally as well as the society during these years. So 50 years ago, 1972 to 1973 was a SHMITA year when 48% of the United States stock market value was wiped out and there was a global recession. The United States also lost their first war. The Vietnam War ended and they had to pull out troops. Saturn was also in an air sign that year in Gemini, and Uranus was in the air sign Libra. Interesting, because in 2022, we have Saturn in Aquarius and Uranus is in Taurus. The next SHMITA year was 1979 to 1980, and during this SHMITA year, there was a global recession. The big one that people might remember was 1986 through 1987, SHMITA year. 33% of the U.S. stock market wiped out on Black Monday, October 19th, 1987. Venus, Mercury, and Pluto were all in Scorpio. Stock market never does well with a scorpionic influx of planets. And Saturn and Uranus were conjunct in the sign Sagittarius, making for unexpected results. Black Monday, 1987. In 1993 to 1994, there was a SHMITA year. There was a bond market crash. Saturn was back in the sign Aquarius in 1993 and early 1994, where it is now in 2022. 2000 to 2001, 37 of the U.S. stock market wiped out during that SHMITA year. The dot-com bubble popped, and there was an event called 9/11, which happened right around Rosh Hashanah in 2001. There was also a global recession that kicked in 2001. And the most recent SHMITA year was from 2014 to 2015 when the Chinese stock market crashed and the U.S. had a big market sell-off. The biggest events tend to happen at the end of the SHMITA year in September or October, before and around the time of Rosh Hashanah, during September or October. The end of the SHMITA year is called the SHMITA release. This was especially evidenced in 2001 when 9/11 occurred on September 11, 2001, right before the SHMITA release of Rosh Hashanah on September 17, 2001. In September 2022, right before around Rosh Hashanah and the Libra new moon of September 25th, we will witness a SHMITA release. I predict this will be a destabilization of global markets between September 25th and the solar eclipse new moon of October 25th in the sign Scorpio. During September 25th through October 25th, 2022, the stock markets and cryptocurrency will crash. I feel that crypto will peak between September 19th and September 23rd. This may be a time to take out profits. But remember, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just reading the astrological signs. Traditionally, Scorpio is a tough time for the stock market. And on Black Monday, October 19th, 1987, there were 3 planets in Scorpio. Hang on to your hat in October, as things are about to get exciting and the fallout of SHMITA is in full gear, merging with Mercury mania as Mercury goes direct on October 2nd. The gates of the dam of retrograde planets breaks open as information, revelations, and disclosures pour forth. The pace picks up when Pluto pushes out of retrograde on October 8th. Pluto pulses up from the underground and stomps his feet, gets back to business, purging power and money from those who misuse it and abuse it. You go, Pluto. Full moon occurs in Aries with the sun in Libra on October 9th, right after Pluto goes direct. Aries is a fiery full moon, and many may be mad about current outcomes. Sun transiting through Libra for 13 more days seek to stabilize and keep things in precarious balance, which will become more challenging when the Sun enters Scorpio on October 23rd. October 23rd is the same day that Saturn goes direct in Aquarius, and 2 days before the solar eclipse new moon of October 25th. On October 9th, at full moon, is the Hunter moon, lighting up and igniting October. As we sow, so shall we reap. Now Mercury and Pluto are transiting direct at this full moon. Aries full moon with Sun in Libra triggers the Aries-Libra polarity of self versus other. Moon in Aries is impulsive and less restrained, while Mercury, now going direct, is trying to be the peacekeeper and keep conversations cordial. Make sure your own communication is clear and concise and diplomatic so as not to stir up Pluto problems with others. Full moon in Aries activates that Aries-Libra polarity, which is a relationship axis. Aries represents self and Libra represents the others. Where Aries is about self-assertion, Libra is about compromise. Through the energy of the Libra sun, we are aware of the need for relationships and all that comes with maintaining them, compromising, negotiating, and balancing. With the sun forming an alignment with Venus and a trine to Saturn at this full moon, we can be motivated by love or pleasure, but we also have to be reasonable and practical. So as we transit into the second part of October, we find October 23rd a busy bubble up astrological day as Saturn turns direct, being the third planet to leave retro redux, and Saturn turns up the volume. Venus and the Sun transit into Scorpio that same day, triggering an ongoing fixed T-square between planets in Scorpio, Saturn in Aquarius, and Uranus in North Node transiting Taurus. Saturn transiting direct in Aquarius ignites the sleeping giant of collective consciousness to wake up and smell the coffee and to see what the latest limitations and restrictions have been imposed upon you by governments and power brokers. 2 days later, the solar eclipse, Scorpio new moon, slides in on October 25th, with the Sun, Moon, and Venus slinking through Scorpio. This stirs up suspicious situations and subconscious urges while exposing shadows. This Scorpio new moon eclipse will affect money markets, and they will be volatile. Scorpio new moon offers a lunar window to set intentions aligned with your values. What do you value most in your life? Money, time, health, or vitality? Remember, health is your first wealth. Protecting health sovereignty continues to be an ongoing issue during November, and especially at the powerful lunar eclipse on November 8th. The electromagnetic radiations will be felt worldwide at the solar eclipse in Scorpio on October 25th. Sometimes around these solar eclipses, we have a preponderance of solar flares, or there are sunspots on the actual sun in our galaxy that are affecting us here on Earth. What solar eclipses do for us as people on the planet is they shine light on what has been hidden from individuals or in the collective society. The astrological phenomena that bring solar eclipses, or the astronomy of a solar eclipse, is when the moon lines up directly between Earth and the sun. This always happens at new moons. Astrologically, when the sun and moon are conjunct, as we say in astrology, or in the same sign, you're going to see an activation of that sign in your own astrology chart. So look and see where Scorpio is in your astrology chart. This is where you consult your astrologer, Jill Jardine, at jilljardineastrology.com. So with this solar eclipse on October 25th, if you're born around that time or a couple days before or after, this solar eclipse is going to be very important for you. It's going to open up possibilities. It could offer new beginnings, but it will also shut doors that are no longer viable to go through. It usually takes us a month or two to understand how the eclipse is going to trigger us, or even see on the big level what the new beginning is going to be for our society. The moon can block out the sun's light at a solar eclipse, distorting our sense of reality. Do not make any big decisions at a solar or lunar eclipse, as your clarity can be obscured, just like the sun or moon being obscured. And there can also be confusion. Speaking of confusion, retrograde Jupiter slips backward into Pisces after being in the sign Aries during the past 5 months. As jovial giant Jupiter passes back to Pisces, its traditional ruling sign, the theme of confusion continues and life may feel surreal for the next month. Things will happen that will make us question our realities. 3D, third dimensional reality, will become more ludicrous as we feel the heightened spiritual access to fifth dimensional reality and higher frequencies of light and life. Many will be seeking spiritual connection and searching for higher meaning in life, which is amplified at the end of November at the Sagittarius new moon on the day Jupiter goes direct, November 23rd, the day before the Thanksgiving holiday here in the United States. At the very end of October, right before Halloween, Mars goes retrograde on October 30th through January 12th, 2023 in Gemini. So Gemini and Aries will be greatly impacted because Aries is the sign that rules Mars. When Mars goes retrograde, it will slow things down. Mars rules surgery and sharp instruments, so it's not the best time astrologically to get surgery when Mars is retrograde. We may find our motivation and drive to succeed is less. Focus and assertive behaviors are less intense. When Mars is retrograde, it is a good time to look at conflict in your life and to see where you need to redirect energy. Mars retrograde can also bring up health issues, as Mars rules our vitality and life force. When Mars is in its retrograde cycle, we must reassess our current projects, our approach to getting what we want, and our desires. Rather than directly assert our desires, we tend towards introspection. When Mars is retrograde, it is essentially turned inward. It's internalized, intensified, personalized, and perhaps pressurized. We can be hesitant about taking action, second-guessing our instincts or our natural impulses rather than acting upon them. Many can also internalize anger, which can also turn into tension, resentment, depression, apathy, and sometimes even paranoia. So it's best to have some kind of an outlet physically when Mars is retrograde so that your energy doesn't get jammed and dammed up. Make sure you get your exercise regimes in place before the end of October. November brings a very powerful and much astrologically anticipated lunar eclipse on November 8th, 2022, with the sun in Scorpio and moon in Taurus. Taurians and Scorpios are on high alert due to this eclipse occurring in your sign. I know you haven't gotten a break lately because the eclipse patterns since November of 2021 have all been in Taurus and Scorpio. But don't worry, you'll get a break starting in 2023. But all fixed signs, Scorpio, Taurus, Leo, and Aquarius, will also be affected, especially if you have any planets around the mid degrees of these fixed signs. Again, another reason to consult your astrologer to see how you'll be affected by this eclipse. JardineAstrology.com. This eclipse season is so loaded with astrological aspects and ignition that I will be doing an in-depth eclipse podcast for the upcoming solar and lunar eclipses in Scorpio 2022, so stay tuned. This full moon on November 8th occurs with the sun in Scorpio, moon in Taurus. And there are so many planets participating in this astrological cluster, which will make for an intense eclipse. Uranus, the moon, North Node, Mercury, Sun, Venus, and Saturn are all trying to get their planetary point across. The moon and Uranus are exactly conjunct at 16 degrees Taurus, within a few degrees of the North Node, opposing Mercury and the Sun conjunct with Venus in Scorpio. Saturn in Aquarius throws a tight T-square aspect to this full moon. T-square is astrological talk for difficult. This is going to be a complicated time. Of course, I had to look up what the Sabian symbol is for 16 degrees Taurus, the degree of this full moon, and Uranus in Taurus. And here it is, Taurus 16. An old teacher fails to interest his pupils in traditional knowledge. The keynote is the inadequacy of past knowledge in times of crisis. Ruh-roh. Could this mean this is a crisis time? Traditional concepts are not adequate to confirm the new conditions of existence. Even the most consecrated and trusted tradition does not have the real answer to the problem. So, I guess there is going to be some kind of collective crisis, and best to be prepared. Forewarned is forearmed. The full moon lunar eclipse occurs on Election Day in the United States, so there will be some issues with elections around the country. Polarization flares up and everyone thinks they are in the right camp. The economic trajectory is grim. There could be a historic event triggered around this time as Uranus at 18 degrees Aquarius activates through a stressful T-square aspect the degree of the epic Uranus North Node Mars conjunction of 18 degrees Taurus, which occurred in early August. So in astrology, when there is a degree that gets reactivated later, it tends to turn up the volume on what happened during the earlier time. In astrology, Scorpio and Taurus are money signs. Taurus in our chart indicates our value system and resources, which includes the money we make, what we like to spend our money on, and how we cultivate resources and what we value. Scorpio in astrology relates to shared resources, money we receive from others, investments, partners' money, death, transformation, and rebirth. Both these fixed signs don't like change. So with this lunar eclipse activating Taurus and Scorpio, there will be many issues regarding money or lack of money, resources, and the economy. This eclipse precurses economic concerns during 2023, including the end of extreme speculation, such as with the real estate market and other extravagant spending or gambling. We are in the looming recession we saw coming a year ago. The confluence of several planets on either side of the moon in Taurus and the sun in Scorpio during this eclipse signifies that there is not just one issue regarding the economy, but multifaceted. The oppositions indicate that there will be two sides to the issue and there will be conflicts. There also will be opposition to any economic reforms that are implemented during this time. And as you remember about our friend Scorpio, as well as ruling shared finances, investments, and other forms of resources, Scorpio is ruled by the planet Pluto, whose domain is death, rebirth, and transformation. So this Scorpio Taurus full moon eclipse portends more death, with people leaving their bodies in the coming months. We will notice again a wave of celebrities passing away, which indicates that in the general population, more people are dying. This is a time of decision for souls to stay on the earth plane or transition to higher dimensions. Many will leave their bodies, but many will decide to ride the waves of transformation on earth as she evolves from her third dimensional form into a fifth dimensional frequency. This eclipse provides the energies for rapid transformation and evolution, so we will see many people awakening. The end of November offers some soothing respite at the Sagittarius new moon on November 23rd. The same day, Jupiter goes direct. We have to believe that justice will prevail, and the outlook is optimistic going forward. Whatever gets stirred up at the Scorpio lunar eclipse in early November can be resolved, and all is not lost. Get ready to enjoy the upcoming holiday season and the Jupiterian Sagittarian good vibes. Stay positive. I hope you enjoyed this episode, Cosmic Waves and Cryptocurrents, the astrology highlights of September through November 2022. Remember to download, subscribe, share, and give us a 5-star review. This is Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine signing out, sending you cosmic currents through the quantum field.